During the family celebration, I sent my husband and his mistress's family to hell while I continue to protect my angelic baby. On the eve of the Mid-Autumn Festival, my husband took me and our daughter on vacation. After only 2 days, he made the excuse of having a business dinner and turned a blind eye to our daughter's high fever. I was rushing our daughter to the hospital when I caught sight of my husband with his childhood friend. Their son was with them as well. I wanted a divorce, but he refused, because as an official under review, getting divorced would make him lose his qualification to compete. Taking a deep breath, he shockingly pushed me off a cliff. Their son even threw my unconscious and fever-ridden daughter after me. Just die now. When I opened my eyes, I saw the plane ticket booking information on my phone. I froze as I looked at the confirmed booking page. Have I been reborn? Where is my daughter? I scanned the room in panic, but my heartbeat returned to normal as I saw my daughter playing with toys nearby. I took deep breaths, feeling warmth return to my hands and feet. Li Ping glanced at me. "What are you doing? Did you not hear what I just said to you?" "What?" He grew impatient. "I have a client also in Sanya. We'll discuss some projects then. You and our daughter can enjoy yourselves. Don't worry about me." I gripped my phone tightly. The client he mentioned, isn't she just the mother of his son and my longtime friend? I thought of how my close friend, who I've known for almost 30 years, and my husband betrayed me together. I wanted nothing more than to kill him at the sight of my daughter tragically dying at the foot of the cliff. But I can't. Murder is a crime, and it would cause my daughter grief for the rest of her life. Suppressing the towering hatred in my eyes, I idly asked, "Do I need to book the hotel in the city so that it will be convenient for you two to meet?" Li Ping cleared his throat. "No, I'll handle it." Suddenly appearing to find his conscience, he came over and gave me a peck on the forehead. "You've been working hard taking care of the child. This time, I'll book the best hotel, and you can relax." I looked at his gentle smile, but in my eyes, I could only see his twisted face from our past life when he pushed me off the cliff. His jaws were clenched tightly, his eyes filled with red blood streaks. It was as if a delicate net enveloped me. It was difficult for me to breathe. "I'm sorry, I have to be regularized. I can't get a divorce." And then he pushed me off. Indeed, becoming a widow would not impede his promotion. His closeness gave me the creeps, and I quickly stood up to dodge him. "I've made some soup, go check it out." Avoiding his gaze, I called the hotel for his reservation. In one breath, I reserved 10 presidential suites, leaving only 2 rooms on the top and next floors. In the evening, after putting my daughter Guoguo to sleep, I returned to the room and found Li Ping was already asleep. I opened his phone and directly accessed the secondary system. The password was my childhood friend's birthday. The moment I unlocked it, a sharp pain surged through my heart. Tears splashed onto the smartphone screen, which I quickly wiped clean. Because all of my own passwords were also my childhood friend's birthday. At that time, I even joked, if I lose my phone, I won't worry about someone unlocking it, because nobody would think that I would use my childhood friend's birthday as a password. But now, besides me, my husband is using her birthday as well. Isn't that like family? With a tumult of thoughts, I clicked on his most recent chat history, which was all with Hu Weiwei. I began from their first WeChat message 5 years ago and kept going until I was ready for sleep. From the initial courtesy to the eventual lack of boundaries, those intimate photos and high-definition videos of us together, everything was crystal clear. I suddenly felt a wave of nausea in my throat. I rushed to the bathroom and threw up everything I had for dinner. It was too disgusting, as if I had eaten spoiled food. I've known Hu Weiwei since kindergarten. We got along because we shared similar interests and values. We've hardly ever had a fight. Even when we liked the same things, we never fought over them. Because I came from a well-to-do family, while she was destitute. I was very soft-hearted and would agree to all her requests. In primary school, when she wanted my Barbie doll, I gave it to her. In high school, when she didn't want to attend classes, I accompanied her in playing truant, which resulted in us both being put on report by the teacher. Even after graduation, she was unmarried and pregnant, but refused to disclose who the man was. I never pursued it. From the time she fell pregnant until she gave birth, even until her son, Huyu, started school. All expenses were shouldered by me. When she boasted about renting a good house at a low price, she didn't realize that over half of the rent was made up by me. I would willingly share everything with her, except a man. And absolutely not if it meant harming my daughter. In a previous life, I took my daughter Guoguo alongside Li Ping for a vacation in Sanya. During a meal, I went to the restroom, and when I returned, I saw Li Ping feeding raw seafood to our daughter. Children have weak stomachs. They can't eat raw food. Li Ping didn't like being questioned. The boss said, "It's fine. Why are you making a fuss? I have an engagement tonight. Don't call me if it's not necessary." With that, he got up and left without glancing at our daughter. I knew he had some traditional patriarchal ideas, not showing much affection towards our daughter. But I always felt like a father-daughter bond could change his mindset over time. Yet when I saw the disdain in his eyes that day, which made my daughter shrink back, I realized I might have been wrong. That night, my daughter started to vomit and had diarrhea persistently, coupled with an unending high fever. I dialed 20-something calls for Li Ping, asking him to come back, yet he initially claimed he was busy and asked me to feed medicine to our daughter. And then, he just turned off his phone. I was left alone carrying my daughter, wandering in the storm in search of a clinic. Midway, I came to a halt, because there by the sea, amidst the pouring rain, I saw Li Ping, the man who claimed to be attending to his clients, romancing Hu Weiwei. Both were sharing a coat to shield from the rain, passionately kissing each other. Li Ping. My yell interrupted the two. They separated instantly. Li Ping's first reaction was not an apology, but an accusation. "You are actually spying on me? Are you insane, always suspecting this and that?" Calmly, I stared at him, then turned to Hu Weiwei and the son, Huyu, she was holding hands with. "Li Ping, let's divorce." He was taken aback. "What?" I looked at Huyu. "Your son is already so old. You've secured your lineage. There's no need for me and our daughter to exist in your life." "No, we can't divorce." Li Ping panicked. He was still in the observation period for cadre promotion, and if he got divorced, everything would be over. "I've made up my mind. This marriage is over." Holding my daughter, I turned to leave, only to be fiercely pushed by the rushing Li Ping. Without thinking, I lose my grip. My daughter fell, landing perilously close to the cliff's edge, hitting her head hard, and I tumbled over the edge. When I was floundering for help in the water, Huyu kicked my daughter down as well. "Just die. Without you, Daddy would only have me as his child." Li Ping watched all this without stopping Huyu. In this life, I went to Sanya as originally planned the next day. The check-in procedure went smoothly. Since my husband booked the presidential suite, it all got done within 10 minutes. As we were about to go up, I intentionally told him I left my phone at the front desk and would be a few minutes late. After entering the room, I joked with Li Ping, "I must have looked so silly earlier. I accidentally got off on the wrong floor for a second there." Still going to open the door with the room card. Li Ping's cup dropped onto the carpet. "What are you doing opening someone else's door?" I didn't mean to. Seeing Li Ping starting to sweat profusely from his forehead, I snorted. "Besides, there's no one in the room. What are you worried about?" He let out a deep sigh, just like he's done every time, and began to grumble at me. "Why do you always do such silly things?" He pointed at the wound on Gogo's arm. "You can't even take care of a child properly. Look at the wound on her arm. How is she going to get married with a scar like this in the future? My daughter just needs to be happy. She doesn't have to get married." I wanted to keep talking, but he impatiently cut me off. "So she doesn't need to use marriage as a goal? With her like that, in the future, if there's a man willing to have her, you should kneel down to him in gratitude." "I'm busy with other things. Don't call me if it's not important." According to my memory, he has no engagements tonight, so he can only go upstairs to change rooms now. I let out a small smile. Figuring it's about time, I played the cartoon that Gogo likes to watch and went out to the corridor to find a public phone to call the police. "Hello, there are people engaging in prostitution in room 207 of Dihao Hotel. Here's an island, only possessing a small police station, which usually indulges in serenity. It was merely a 5-minute ride from receiving the emergency call to the crime scene. The shrieking siren arrived, and I followed the crowd to the first-floor lobby. At first glance, I saw Li Ping, hastily wrapped in a bathrobe, and Hu Weiwei, who had barely put on her silk robe, with more than half of her body exposed. My eyes widened in shock as I exclaimed, "Husband, Weiwei, why are you two together?" For a moment, all eyes turned to me. I glanced back and forth between Li Ping and Hu Weiwei. "Husband, didn't you say you were at a business dinner? Where is your client? And Weiwei, why didn't you notify me when you came?" Just as Li Ping and Hu Weiwei tried to respond, they were interrupted by the police. The police called me over for questioning. "Do you know them?" "They are my husband and my best friend," I told them honestly. "What happened?" "Someone reported they were suspected of soliciting prostitutes." "Impossible," I interrupted the police. "They've known each other as friends for a long time. How could they possibly be involved in prostitution?" "We'll only know that after an investigation." "There's no need for an investigation. I can guarantee that they did nothing wrong. I swear on my life." The policeman frowned. "We are conducting a serious investigation. Why would we want your life?" After verifying at the scene that the two did actually not take part in any monetary transactions, they had to let them go. After the police left, I quickly helped Hu Weiwei to straighten her clothes. "Who would be so bored as to report you guys? It's really absurd. You guys have known each other for so many years. If you were together, you'd already be together. Don't you think I would know? Besides, you hate homewreckers the most. How could you possibly be one yourself?" Only after finishing my sentence did I realize I had misspoken and hastily apologized. "I'm so sorry, Weiwei. I didn't mean it that way." Hu Weiwei's face turned sour. Her mother was the mistress, and she was an illegitimate child. Back then, her mother bore her for the sake of money, hoping that if the child was a boy, she could demand child support or even get promoted to a formal wife. But it turned out to be a girl. She got nothing at all, and was cursed by people every single day. She committed suicide before turning 40. And so, from a young age, no one wanted to play with Hu Weiwei, except me. She felt guilty, but knowing my straightforward personality, she didn't take it to heart. In the evening, I took them to the restaurant where I used to dine with my daughter in my previous life. We ordered all sorts of seafood that the owner highly recommended, especially the kinds that can be eaten raw without missing out on a single kind. Hu Weiwei has had a tough upbringing, and her eyes would gleam at the sight of money, taking advantage of every benefit that came her way. Hence, she disregarded everything at the sight of high-grade seafood. "Xiao Yu, eat more. All these were bought by Auntie for you. They're all so delicious." She frantically served Hu Yu with copious amounts of seafood. "This is also delicious. Eat quickly." Hu Yu also ate joyfully, picking from either side and devouring the food. Gogo watched, her mouth watering. I did not allow her to eat, telling her that since she had diarrhea in the afternoon, she could not consume any seafood. She always listened to me, therefore she only drank the porridge in front of her and did not touch anything else. We had a hearty meal, as hosts and guests alike were thoroughly pleased. I quietly waited. Just before midnight, there was a commotion upstairs. The sounds of hasty footsteps were heard. It must have been the seafood taking effect. The restaurant owner is a heartless person. All the ingredients used were picked from the discarded catches that fishermen didn't want at night. Although they appeared fresh, they were in reality not fit for consumption anymore. All kinds of parasites are in it. My daughter from my previous life died from parasites. Hu Weiwei is jealous of my life, isn't she? Envying that my daughter is more sensible than her son. Then let's swap. Let's see if her obedient son can survive. My train of thought was interrupted by Li Ping's ringing phone. It was a call from Hu Weiwei. I woke up my husband. "Li Ping, do you have a son outside?" Li Ping suddenly snapped back to focus. "What son? What are you talking about?" I pointed at his phone and said, "See for yourself." He glanced at the phone, which displayed "Son's mom." "It's just a punishment for losing a game of truth or dare. Don't overthink." The very next moment, after hearing the contents of the call, he dashed out the door. As I coldly watched his retreating figure, I called the hotel to deliver emergency medication. Then, I too headed upstairs, properly dressed. In the suite, Hu Yu was convulsed with fever, his face bright red. Seeing him in this state, I felt an indescribable joy. In my past life, he pushed my daughter off a cliff. She crashed all the way down, landing hard on the sharp rocks by the cliff edge. She was shattered to pieces. Oled and Li Ping and Hu Weiwei not only showed no signs of regret, they quickly called the police, accusing me of inadvertently falling off the cliff while holding my daughter. In the end, the police ruled it as an accident. The reason behind their ruling was simple enough. As Hu Yu said, "Officer, I saw Mommy walking too fast, and she slipped. She was holding my sister when she fell, so they both fell together." What kind of lie could a 4-year-old possibly tell? Hence, the police believed him. Only the few of us knew that not only was Hu Yu a liar, but also innately wicked. Such a person is not worth sympathizing with. I spent the entire night with Li Ping, working to bring Hu Yu's fever down. We rushed him to the hospital immediately after stabilizing him. Coming down the stairs, I was probably drowsy from staying up all night. I accidentally twisted my ankle and bumped into Li Ping. In turn, he stumbled into Hu Weiwei. Hu Yu rolled down the stairs, the back of his head brutally striking the steps. Blood immediately poured out, flowing profusely. What a shame that the staircase was too short to make him fall and crack open, just like my daughter did. Li Ping charged out of the building carrying Hu Yu. By the time they reached the best hospital in Sanya, Hu Yu had fallen unconscious due to severe blood loss. The doctor's face was filled with anxiety. "This child has negative blood type. We don't have this in our blood bank. His platelet count is incredibly low. If he does not get a transfusion soon, we'll lose him." I swiftly pushed Li Ping out. "He has a negative blood type." Li Ping didn't move. "I'm not." "How are you not?" I directly pulled out his latest medical report from the phone. "Doctor, look at this. It's a negative blood type, right?" The doctor heaved a sigh of relief, grabbing my husband and heading towards the emergency room. "Hurry up and get in. We don't have time to delay." My husband still resisted. "You can ask elsewhere. I'm not suitable." The doctor inquired routinely, "Do you have any infectious diseases?" I didn't give him a chance to argue. "No, he gets a physical exam every 6 months. He's very healthy." Parents around us who were also there for their ill children couldn't help but interject. "How can you lack even a bit of self-sacrificing spirit? It's just a blood donation. It's not like we're asking for your life." I also pushed him dissatisfiedly. "Hurry up. Even if you don't like Weiwei normally, you can't just let her son die, can you? He's her only son, her lifeline. Hurry up." Li Ping was still hesitating. "Maybe we should check first." I suddenly darkened my face. "Li Ping, why do you seem so strange?" "It's just a blood donation. You used to go frequently. Why are you so nervous today? You're even sweating." I reached out and wiped the sweat from his brow. "Feeling unwell?" My icy fingers made Li Ping instinctively step back a few paces. There was some wariness in the gaze he cast towards me. I naturally possess a cold but ravishing appearance. When I put on a stern face, my imposing aura comes across, a look that, as they say, could quiet a crying child. My persistent probing also managed to break through Hu Weiwei's constant tears. She rushed over and reprimanded Li Ping. "You're hesitant, even when it's merely donating blood? It's just a few 100 milliliters. Is it that hard? Can't you do it for me?" "No, it's not that. You don't understand medical knowledge," Li Ping tried to explain in a low voice. However, this remark struck a chord with Hu Wei's sensitive pride. "Are you looking down on me just because I didn't go to college? I'm asking you to save our son. Does that require medical knowledge?" Amidst the doctor's repeated urging and the surrounding whispers, Li Ping had no choice but to follow the doctor's lead. He was betting that the probability of blood clotting wouldn't occur. I was doing the same. In just a few minutes, Li Ping returned, his face bathed in cold sweat. I rushed over to support him, wiping his sweat. "You probably didn't eat breakfast. It's likely caused by low blood sugar. The takeaway will be delivered soon. I ordered all your favorites." Li Ping is an expert at playing a good husband in front of others. He held me in his arms and smiled. Hu Weiwei was so jealous that her smile faded. "You are indeed virtuous." "Men always like virtuous wives," I laughed. "His year-end bonus will be used to buy a new house, which will be registered under Guoguo's name, since Guoguo is his only child. Who else could he give it to?" Hu Weiwei couldn't bear it anymore. Didn't you just complain to me the other day about how your mother-in-law is pressuring you to have a second child? Didn't you go and look up those son birth recipes? I scoffed. What's so good about having a son? You had a son and your boyfriend abandoned you, didn't he? Hu Weiwei's face changed instantly. Hu Weiwei abruptly stood up and accused me. What do you mean by this? I meant exactly what I said. That scumbag knew you had a son and he still abandoned you both. You're not willing to sue him. If you did, he'd at least have to give you a few thousand in alimony each month. Your life would be much easier. Upon hearing my harsh words, the elders overflowed with indignation, rallied around me. Lass, are you saying that your friend had been deceived by a guy before? I nodded vigorously, slapping the chair. Indeed. The elders wore looks of indignation. Such nonsense. He couldn't even afford to put 4 dishes on the table in his lifetime. May such a wicked man never have a peaceful death in this life. Hu Weiwei's and Li Ping's faces were getting darker and darker amidst the incessant swearing. Until the final remark, "May you die miserably," was made. They couldn't hold themselves together anymore. Li Ping couldn't help retort, "Maybe there's an underlying reason," but he was immediately rebuked before he could finish, just enjoying himself, having a good time, and reluctant to take responsibility, right? Such a rotten man. Li Ping's face turned beet red. An old man suddenly spoke oddly. The way this young man looks, it's sort of like that kid. I notice both of you have moles in the corner of your eyes, in the same place. It's too similar. I burst out laughing. Someone joked before that the kid was produced by my husband and Weiwei. Both Li Ping and Hu Weiwei seemed to find it hard to laugh, their faces rigid as coffin boards. Ignoring their reaction, I went on, "Weiwei is my best friend. We've known each other almost 30 years. How could she possibly betray me? Yes, my husband is quite busy with work and rarely comes home, but he faithfully gives me his pay every month." Suddenly, a doctor rushed out from inside. "The child is in shock. Does he have any allergy history?" Before Hu Weiwei could respond, Li Ping dashed over. "How could he have gone into shock? Didn't you just say that a blood transfusion would be enough? How could he have an allergic shock?" The doctor wiped his dripping sweat. "Before he was given a blood transfusion, he was given some medication. I am not sure if he is allergic to one of those." Li Ping didn't miss a beat. "He's allergic to penicillin, pollen, and egg yolk. That's all. How are you so sure of his allergies?" My clear voice echoed throughout the emergency hall. Just as the doctor turned to go back in, I grabbed his arm. "Wait a moment. You can't go in until we clarify the situation." Hu Weiwei came rushing over to pull me away. "Don't delay, the doctor's trying to save my son. If anything happens to my son, I will make you pay with your life." "Are you out of your mind? How is your son's condition my fault?" I can't break free from her grip. Hu Weiwei looked terrifying. "You picked the food from last night. If it wasn't for your stumbling earlier, Xiaoyu would not have fallen. It's all your fault." Ignoring the hair being pulled from my scalp, I angrily shouted at the doctor, "Check if there is an issue with the blood transfusion." The doctor nodded. "We have already sent someone to check. We also need to rule out any other allergens." Once he went in, Hu Weiwei released her grip. Traces of blood could be seen on the hospital's shiny floor. My hair was a mess, and my eyes were red. I pitifully questioned Hu Weiwei. "Last night, I reminded you not to let Xiaoyu eat too much, but you said it was fine. You spend the whole night taking care of your son, while my daughter was alone in the hotel with no one to care for her. How could you even say such a thing?" After berating her, she turned to Li Ping. "She hit me just now, and you just watched?" At that moment, the doctor stormed out. He slammed a report into Li Ping's face. "Are you out of your mind? Direct relatives cannot give blood." It was a blood test report showing that Li Ping and Hu Yu were father and son. "When you went in to give blood earlier, the nurse repeatedly confirmed with you whether you had any relation to the patient, and you firmly stated that you didn't. Do you know that a clotting reaction can be life-threatening?" As if just learning about this, I grabbed the doctor and asked, "Is there a mistake in the test? They aren't husband and wife. How could they have a child?" "The results have been confirmed 3 times. There's no mistake." I got up from the floor and grabbed Li Ping's collar. "Explain this to me. When did you two get together?" Li Ping pushed me away. Don't talk so indecently. Can anything you've done be more disgraceful? You have no shame. I slapped it across Li Ping's face. The immense force left my hand feeling numb. Was the woman last night the mother of the child, Hu Weiwei, right? She's my childhood friend. How could you do that with her? Did you think about me when you were in bed with her? I'm just a fool, kept in the dark by you, rushing around to save the child last night. I pinned Hu Weiwei to the ground and slapped her a few times, and when Li Ping tried to pull her away, I punched him too. They probably didn't know that I've always enjoyed exercising. Especially boxing, it's my favorite, and I didn't give it up even after having a child. After I was done with the two of them, the doctor came out. He shook his head and sighed, "I'm sorry. Please accept my condolences." Time of death, 1:21 p.m. Hu Weiwei looked blankly. He was fine just a moment ago. How could he just be gone? Li Ping kicked her hard. I told you not to transfuse blood, but you insisted I go. Now that you've killed our son, are you satisfied? Why didn't you just tell me you couldn't transfuse the blood? Hu Weiwei started to push back. How the hell could I say that? Yishuan was right there. What was I supposed to say? Li Ping slapped her a few times. It's all your fault my son died. Before I even left the hospital, I had already seen the video of their intense fight on the internet. The affairs of the two individuals were fermenting together. It was common knowledge. The public opinion on the internet fermented very quickly. Just a few hours later, the trending search for the scumbag man and cheap woman soared to first place. The video was edited, though. Only Li Ping and Hu Weiwei were shown, and there was no trace of me. I understood why and returned to my parents' house late that night with my child. Tears I'd held back streamed down my face the moment I saw my parents. Dad, Mum. In my previous life, I died very unexpectedly. The only thing they saw when they heard the news was a small canister of ashes left over from my cremation. There was nothing else left. I watched helpless in limbo as they aged overnight by 10 to 20 years. They were shaky, supporting each other as they bade me goodbye at my burial. Then they fell ill and died within a couple of years. My mother held me in her arms, patting my back. The lawyer will be here soon. Divorce him. He won't get custody of Guoguo or the share you're entitled to. My father comforted me, the same way he did since I was a child, stroking my head. Don't be afraid. Daddy is here. Though Guoguo couldn't understand what was happening, she came over and hugged me. Don't be scared, Mama. Guoguo is here too. Looking at the three people in front of me, they were my everything. Married to Li Ping for 6 years, I never talked to him about my family situation. It wasn't that I was wary of him. I was just used to being independent, not relying on my family since high school graduation. So, I never thought that my parents' wealth had anything substantial to do with me. After graduating from university, I entered one of the top-ranking investment banks through my own capabilities. However, I got pregnant not long after getting married to Li Ping, and since he wanted to climb higher, I could only sacrifice myself. Choosing to become a full-time housewife. What sets me apart from other housewives, my part-time earnings were no less than Li Ping's salary. Messing with me, it was as if they had kicked on an iron plate. A week later, Hu Weiwei organized a funeral for her son. I wore a custom Hermes red dress with the most perfect makeup, looking resplendent. Meanwhile, after the great shock, Hu Weiwei looked absolutely exhausted. Her hair was dull and dry, and judging by her face that seemed unwashed, she was unkempt and numbly greeting those who came for the funeral. Standing grandly in front of her, I gave her an enchanting smile so radiant and full of charm. You normally love to dress up. Why do you look so terrible today? I teased. Upon hearing my voice, Hu Weiwei suddenly raised her head. You! Her eyes bulged as if they were about to pop out. You dare to dress like this to a funeral? Are you even human? There's no rule that says you have to wear black to a funeral, is there? I looked down at my dress. It's a couture that can only be worn once, and I've given its first show to your son. You should be happy. The people around me gossiped louder and louder. I curled up the corners of my lips and said in a voice loud enough for everyone to hear, "After all, you gave birth to my husband's son." Going by your archaic terms, in ancient times, you would be considered a concubine and your son should belong to me, the legal wife. His journey to this world was not easy, and I've given him a grand send-off. I've done right by him. Compared to when I died in my previous life, and how she mocked my parents for having caused my death, and laughed at my parents for being the last of their line, I have shown a lot of restraint today. Suddenly, a pair of large hands reached out from behind and grabbed my arm. "What are you here for?" It was Li Ping. He was gritting his teeth and looking at me as if he was about to eat me. Slamming the table with too much force, his mouth was shaking uncontrollably. "If it wasn't for your seafood, Xiao Yu would still be alive. It's all your fault. You killed him. You'll pay for this in the second half of your life. Those words of yours are slanderous. I can sue you," I responded calmly. "You dare to donate blood when you have a child of your own. You're the root cause of the problem, not me." Provoked by my words, he was steamed and raised his hand to hit me. I swiftly dodged, landing a strategic kick. He was rolling on the ground, a far cry from his previous arrogance. I dusted my hands, dropped 200 yuan, and turned away. "Consider this an offertory. Goodbye." Hu Weiwei's relatives suddenly surrounded me, barring me from leaving. "You think you can just walk away after beating someone?" "Hu Weiwei said it was you who killed her son. I've already called the police. You aren't leaving today unless you give us an explanation." I gestured to my bodyguards not to take any action and crossed my arms casually, appraising them. "What sort of explanation do you want?" "You killed a child. He could have grown up to earn a lot of money. That's right, Weiwei is now alone, unless you leave behind a few million for her to retire. Don't think about leaving." I laughed. "Since I've already given her my husband, there's no need to give her any money." Li Ping finally managed to get up from the ground. "Stop spouting nonsense. I had nothing to do with Hu Weiwei." I flung the hospital test report at his face. "Do you think that bribing the doctor can erase medical records and blood test results?" On the day we returned, my father already bought over for the hospital. The fact that Li Ping and Hu Yu were father and son was indisputable. Hu Weiwei had an affair with my husband and gave birth to Hu Yu 4 years ago, right after I'd given birth to my daughter. Over the years, Li Ping has earned at least 5 million from his illicit activities, all of which he spent on Hu Weiwei and her son. Here are all the bank statements. "According to the law, Hu Weiwei," I said, looking at her, "I have the right to demand you return this because this is the marital property of us, husband and wife, and it is protected by law." "How could Hu Weiwei be willing to give in? Everything is rightfully mine," she retorted. "I've given birth to Li Ping's son. You, on the other hand, have given birth to a child without dowry, a child that is nothing but a burden," she scoffed. "He should be giving his wealth to my son, not to you and your daughter." Hu Weiwei sneered, asserting her stance. "Ch-ch!" She spat vehemently in disagreement. She behaved hysterically, like a shrew. I shrugged off her attack. "No need to worry. You should receive the court subpoena by tomorrow." Li Ping pulled me aside. "What are you trying to do?" My bodyguard instantly came to my aid. "Watch your attitude." Only now Li Ping seemed to realize something was off. "Who are these people? What's up with your clothes?" "None of your business." Li Ping snorted. "Throughout our marriage, I have been the one footing the bills. You've been nothing more than a homemaker, relying on me for everything. Would you have been able to feed yourself without me? Do you think you have the right to argue with me about money?" His words grew increasingly harsh. "When I married you, I spent hundreds of thousands. What did you give me in return? A daughter. Our Li family has always valued sons." The odious remarks of favoring boys over girls furrowed my brows. "I must have been blind to ever take a liking to you. Thank God, I'm cutting my losses in time. But it's not my style to not retaliate when being insulted. Why do you want a son? To inherit your tiny piece of land or those 3 run-down cottages of yours? Have you forgotten that the house we got married in was bought by me? You're living in my house, eating the meals I make, enjoying the position only vacant after I resigned. Without my resignation, you wouldn't have been able to climb the ladder your entire life. Back in the day, it was through my friend's connection that I recommended him for a promotion. Otherwise, given his competence, it would have been a miracle for him to even become a department manager." He was outraged by my belittling comments, but couldn't do anything about it. Li Ping could only glower at me. You wait and see. On the day of the divorce hearing, Li Ping and Hu Weiwei arrived together. They arrogantly strolled past me. Hu Weiwei even glared at me, then touched her own belly and laughed. I couldn't help but laugh too. Is this fool eager to provide me with the evidence of infidelity during our marriage? As expected of my good old friend, always remembering to help me, even in times like this. The divorce lawsuit was as simple as I had imagined. Only one of my ferocious team of lawyers emerged and obliterated the opposition. Whether it's securing my daughter's standard of living in the future or her dependency on me, everything is in my favor. Moreover, Li Ping's affair during the marriage and the money he spent on his mistress, as well as having a child, were all too clear. The court pronounced on the spot, the custody of the daughter was mine, and post-marital properties shall be divided equally. This wealth also includes the money that Li Ping spent on Hu Weiwei. Li Ping was so angry that he wanted to appeal. I was very supportive, then I showed him my formidable team of lawyers. His face turned green. Who exactly are you? I blinked. My surname is Ling, the Ling of the Ling Corporation. Li Ping fell to his knees. President Ling is my father. I bent over to look at him. Even though it's not Chinese New Year, I have received your generous gift. My father is someone who distinguishes between public and private matters. He wouldn't fire you just because you divorced me. He was about to breathe a sigh of relief when I added, however, your infidelity has tainted the company's reputation, causing losses of tens of millions. You can't afford the damages, so you'd better pack your things and leave immediately. Li Ping stared at me angrily. You just said that President Ling wouldn't mix personal grievances with professional issues. But I will. I coldly stared back at him. I forgot to tell you, I will be taking over as the chairman next Monday. He panicked completely. His earlier arrogance vanished completely. No, Yishuan, you can't fire me. I can. After all, I have the power. Li Ping then begged, after all these years of love, you can't be so heartless. Even if I've done wrong, I'm still Guoguo's father. Could you forgive me for the sake of our child? I wasn't as angry when he didn't bring up Guoguo. Now, I just want to throw him off that cliff as well, to let him witness what it feels like having his head shattered. He watched Hu Yu throw Guoguo's body down without showing any reluctance or sadness. Only a sense of relief for having resolved a major concern. I clenched my fists tightly. You don't deserve to utter our daughter's name. I've already filed a request with the court. You will never see Guoguo again in your lifetime. Don't dream of it in your lifetime. Li Ping collapses desolately onto the ground while Hu Weiwei keeps pushing him. You'd better talk to Yishuan again soon. She's soft-hearted. She might agree not to fire you. She was right. I am soft-hearted and can't stand to see others suffer. So after leaving the court, I donated all the compensation I received from the divorce. But part of what she said was wrong. Women are gentle, but mothers are firm. They hurt Guoguo, and that crossed my line. For the next half year, I was extremely busy. Taking over such a large group was somewhat exhausting. During this half year, I signaled to all the companies in the same industry. I cut off Li Ping. And Li Ping, who was used to commanding others from above, suddenly had a hard time looking for a new job. What's more, he is about to be 35. At this age, men neither can rise high nor fall low. It took him 3 full months to find a job. I have just found a clerical position in a small company. The salary is around 3,000 to 4,000 yuan a month. Hu Weiwei and I can only afford to rent a place in a rundown apartment. Li Ping is still feeding Hu Weiwei pipe dreams, saying that if she gives birth to a son, everything would look up. He would definitely work hard as well. Within 6 months, he assured he would get a promotion and a raise, and then they could afford a better residency. Hu Weiwei believed him. She had no other choice but believe, as the doctor told her that overeating seafood had damaged her womb. This is her last chance to get pregnant. She has to hold on to it. Time flew by, and it was soon the Mid-Autumn Festival. That day, I had just acquired a small company and had to let go of some employees who were not fit for their positions. Li Ping was creating a scene in the office, unwilling to leave after collecting 3 months of salary. He was escorted out by the security guards. From afar, I glanced at him, but didn't give it much thought. Tonight, I have booked the rotating restaurant on the top floor of Asia Tower. It's Guogo's birthday. It's also the annual Mid-Autumn Festival. Having been spoiled by my parents for the last 6 months, my daughter is becoming more adorable every day. When she breaks into a smile, the dimples that dot her face melt my heart. Guogo wants to always stay with Grandpa, Grandma, and Mommy, never to be separated. Can Mommy promise Guogo this? Guogo loves Mommy the most. She gave me a sweet kiss. There was a flicker on my phone as a message pops up. I gave it a quick look. Today, a fire broke out in an old residential area in the city, suspected to be triggered by illicit use of electricity, causing a short circuit. Currently, 2 people have died at the spot, with no other casualties. Please continue following the news for further rescue updates. I clicked on it and was met with the sight of 2 charred bodies. They were Li Ping and Hu Weiwei. Li Ping was burned beyond recognition to the degree that nothing could be made out. You could only vaguely discern something human-like. Meanwhile, Hu Weiwei was curled up, her hand protectively held over her stomach. She had been pregnant for 8 months, with a little more than a month to go before the child could be born. I slightly furrowed my brow, a fleeting anomaly crossing my heart. It was quickly suppressed. I sent a message to my assistant. Advance the demolition and construction of the Fenglong community. Keep a close watch on the casualty situation. When negotiating compensation for the demolition later, increase the standards appropriately. Consider it as reimbursement for them. I put away my phone and continued celebrating the birthday for Guogo. She came to me during the time of family reunions, and from then on, I would always make her feel the joy of togetherness. The misery of the world is gone. For the rest of her life, her only experience is happiness. The end.